I'm here with Vikram Widge. Thank you very much for coming, Vikram. You are the global head of climate finance and policy for the World Bank Group. And it's a great opportunity then for me to ask you a few questions about something new, which is called the forest bond. You were talking about that here at the symposium a little bit. Could you tell us about what is the forest bond?
Yeah, great. Thank you. Just to sort of get the affiliation right, I'm with the International Finance Corporation, which is part of the World Bank Group, but I don't want to usurp the entire group's if you will, responsibility. But look, the forest bond, which IFC issued in October 2016 after more than 2 years worth of work, was actually a very innovative instrument to catalyze private capital into forest, into sort of avoided deforestation. Avoided deforestation is actually responsible for more than, depending on whose estimates you believe, about more than 20% of global emissions. And just halving deforestation is going to require somewhere between $75 and $300 billion of money. So IFC issued this very innovative, first of its kind instrument. It was a $152 million bond, which was offered through capital markets, so it also helped build the infrastructure for linking capital markets to forest deforestation. And we sold it to investors who had the option of, buying the bond and taking the interest over the 5 years, either as cash, which is normal for an IFC bond, or to substitute it with forestry carbon credits, and thereby creating a revenue stream for this project, which we linked to in Kenya, which was supplying us the project with the credits. So, if you will, it was a green coupon bond, which effectively said, all right, investors, it's you can sort of raise awareness with them, but also have them participate in supporting avoided deforestation.
Right. So that sounds like the kind of thing then, are you going to scale up on that, expand on that? You were talking about, compared to the amount of cost and the amount that was issued with this bond, is there going to be more bonds of this type issued or offered by the IFC?
Yes, we are looking at replicating it, as my boss is fond of saying. Innovation is great, you win awards, but in order to actually establish it, you must replicate. So we are looking at replicating it in different ways so that we can extend the concept. In the first one, we partnered with BHP, who was advised by Conservation International, because not all investors were taking these credits. But if you want to ensure that the avoided deforestation activity is fully funded, then you need somebody to buy them. So BHP was acting as a backstop. We are now looking at a variant where we would go directly linked to market in some sort of a risk-adjusted structure. We are looking at another variant where we would work with buyers of certain commodities that are associated with deforestation, like cocoa or palm oil. A lot of them have net zero deforestation commitments, but as we heard here today, not many are finding ways of actually being able to deliver on that. Yes, certification is great, but how are you going to associate your use of that product with no deforestation? And I think through a variant of this structure, we could work with particularly the cocoa industry or even the palm oil industry to sort of link both the on-the-ground activity to a final corporate, the manufacturing and use of these commodities.
So you think there's a growing market for this kind of investment vehicle? People are talking about how, in some ways, there's not enough places to invest capital, particularly, for example, in the United States, and so that companies are holding an awful lot of cash right now, and there's not enough places for them to invest. And at the same time, emerging markets are markets that people are you could potentially, put these bonds into that. Is the market for this sort of bond growing, or do people have to do people need to be a bit more educated about that it exists to enlarge this market even further?
So I think the market is growing, as is represented by the surge in green bond demand. Um, it's sort of now beyond just anecdote. It's confirmed that the supply of green bonds in the market is sort of, the demand far outstrips the supply. But so there is appetite, and so this particular forest bond is piggybacking on that. It's a variant. The next one we hope to issue it as a IFC green bond, so it will have traction because it is a green bond. But then we will also have this additional enhancement that allows the investor to say, okay, do they want to treat it like a regular green bond and just take the cash that IFC gives out, or do they want to go to the next step and actually support something else, like avoided deforestation, like green, and so a regular investor may or may not choose to do that unless there is an arbitrage into the carbon markets, which as we know don't really provide that much succor right now. But at the same time, for certain type of investors, like the corporate investors I pointed out, this could be a very interesting way of supporting avoided deforestation in their own supply chains, while being assured that their principal is protected because it's a AAA IFC bond. But more importantly, IFC's own environment social guidelines come into play. Our engagement with the project ensures that there are integrity issues that are dealt with. So there's a lot of reputation-related security, not to mention the higher quality associated with the underlying conservation projects. So.
Well, thank you, Vikram, for telling us about the forest bond. It sounds like a very interesting new initiative from the IFC. Part not that new, but still novel. And thank you very much for taking the time to talk about it with us this afternoon.
Thank you.